Hey everyone, RogueGold here, and today, as I've done for the past few years, I wanted to do our annual checkup on the original Tom Clancy's The Division from 2016. You know, whether it's people who used to play all of the time but haven't logged in for years, or those who have never played but keep seeing that 75% off digital sale, hell even a $2 copy at GameStop, you'd be surprised how many questions I get and how much general interest there is for knowing if it's quote-unquote worth jumping into a game like The Division 1 these days. Now, whether a game is worth it to someone or not has always been a really hard question to answer, I feel, as two different people could have two very different sets of criteria for why they would want to play a game or what would truly make it worth it to them. And I contemplated whether I even wanted to make a video like this year, as like I said, I did do one in 2023 and then 2024, and for a now 9-year-old game no longer receiving content updates, not much really changes from one year to the next. However, that's the kicker, and the reason why I ended up being inspired to make this video this week. The Division 1 did get an update, not with new content, let me be clear, but an update that not only defies the modern trend in the gaming industry of publishers abandoning their older games, defies Ubisoft itself's track record for shutting the servers down on many older games in its catalog, but at the same time an update done purely to service the dedication of longtime players, and one that generated enough goodwill and buzz that it led to there being login queues for players who were jumping in earlier this week. So with all of that in mind, let's take a look at why you might want to consider picking up The Division 1 in 2025. Alright, now at the top here, I wanted to quickly shout something out, and that's that if by the end of this video you do decide to pick up The Division 1, whether it's for the first time or as a returning player, then chances are it's going to take you a minute to become acclimated with everything that's going on. In case that's you and you wanted some guidance to smoothing that onboarding experience, then I wanted to let you know that I recently put together an ultimate beginner and endgame guide for the game, and judging by some of the comments on there, it's helped many get into the groove of The Division 1. So if you're interested, the link for that will be in the top corner of your screen and down in the description as well. With that, let us now get on to the analysis, shall we? And I wanted to begin by addressing what I teased in the intro there, that being the update that the game recently got. For context, The Division has what's known as global events. These are events that run for 1 week out of every month, and they implement a unique twist and beneficial modifier to your overall gameplay experience as you run through content. Engaging with these global events and taking the greatest advantage of them while they're active allow you to purchase limited time caches that reward some of the very best gear available in the game, as well as tackle stuff like event-specific objectives and achievements, rewarding exclusive cosmetic masks, and more. All in all, global events are just fun windows for playing, getting sweet loot, and having fun. And because of that, they were heavy fan favorites. Now, I say were because despite The Division 1 having received no updates or content since 2018, when the calendar rolled over from 2023 into 2024, global events suddenly stopped rotating and they had stopped activating once per month as they had done for years. The development team, now focused on The Division 2, stated that they were investigating the issue, but between the lack of resources to split between the two games, and Ubisoft's growing track record of simply abandoning or shutting down its older live service titles recently, there was a real fear amongst players that these fan-favorite events may never return, and even worse, that their sudden disappearance could be the beginning of a downward spiral for the game and the start of a dark path towards an eventual shutdown. But that all changed this past week. On Monday, February 17th, players logged in to find the global event Assault was online. And shortly after, the dev team posted online to let people know that 14 months after the issue had begun, global events were indeed back. And they went even further to post a calendar of their rotation schedule for the remainder of 2025. And as stated earlier, this surge of good news and buzz for longtime fans led to login queues, and overall people were just really excited to be playing The Division 1 again. Now, after going through all of that, you may be wondering what the relevancy is here. Why bring all of this up? Well, when it comes to discussing the value proposition for playing a 9-year-old game, let alone one that used to be a live service title and is no more, I think people only truly care about a handful of things. For one, is anyone else playing this thing? And two, is it safe to play? Or is a big publisher, like Ubisoft in this case, going to come along and one day suddenly shut down the whole thing? Well, on that latter point, I'd say it's a pretty good show of faith that they spent over a year working to fix the aforementioned issue with global events and have now committed to running them for the remainder of 2025. of. On top of that, people like the Division franchise's executive producer have directly responded to people's doubts of the Division 1 sticking around long term, stating that there are no such plans to shut it down anytime soon. And then on the point of player base sizes and the overall strength of the community, that's really the main theme that I wanted to double down on for this video. You know, with last year's retrospective on the game, I focused a lot on highlighting the uniqueness of some of the content the game offers, like with the survival game mode, but this year I can think of no better thing to focus on than the passion, commitment, and shocking size of the Division 1's community, given that it's approaching a decade in age. Not only did they have the resilience to continue playing and putting pressure on Ubisoft to fix the global event issue for 14 months until it was finally resolved this week, but even putting aside global events entirely, you would be shocked by the number of regular events and throwbacks that the community hosts that get really solid turnout. Not 2 months ago, on New Year's Eve, I took part in helping organize and promote a Division 1 community event, where the goal was to populate the servers as much as possible, as they hold 24 players at most, for the legendary survival game mode on all platforms. And I was blown away when on the day we had hundreds of people tune in to the live stream that I did, and there were reports that every platform had full lobby runs, not just for the initial queue time, but for subsequent runs and hours afterwards. Someone killed by an NPC, that'll tell us how many people are in the lobby. There's 20 people in here. Oh, I'm over the moon. I'm over the moon at how many people are in this. And don't think that it takes someone like me being involved to get that kind of engagement or for those kinds of events to occur. I spend the vast majority of my time playing The Division 2, as that's the focus of my channel. But just this month, people who are actually active in the Division 1's community organized throwback events for both the Survival and Last Stand game modes, the most recent of which just happened yesterday. So really my underlying point with all of this is that if you're looking for a reason as to why it might be worth your time jumping in and playing a formerly live service 9-year-old looter shooter, I can't think of a much better reason than the notion that it has a community active and passionate enough to keep some of these old game modes populated and remembered, to fight hard enough and loudly enough to get bugged out events fixed and reinstated, and just to be there day in and day out playing the game. I'm not here trying to claim that there's no other older games out there that have passionate communities. I'm sure there are countless. But what I do know is that I can attest personally to the dedication of the Division 1's fanbase. The game is held beloved in many people's hearts. There's a lot of Discord servers and other active communities you can seek out for guidance and just overall encouragement as you start out on your journey in the game, and I just think chances are you're going to have a pretty good time. Now, before we wrap this up, I did want to go through a few points and let you know about a few other important to know things. People always ask, can I play the Division games solo? Yes, you can go through the entire campaign and confidently take on the vast majority of the Division 1's content completely solo. They're scaling in terms of enemy density and difficulty for the entirety of the campaign, as well as the majority of the endgame content. That being said, the game cannot be played offline. It does require an active internet connection at all times, even when playing by yourself. So keep that in mind. Another one I often see, what platform should I invest on and get this for? For the most part, that's up to you. As I mentioned earlier when we did our New Year's Eve event, we got a fantastic turnout on all platforms, so you'll find people to play with no matter what you play on. However, some things to keep in mind there. If you go the PC route, and specifically if you plan to delve into the PvP side of things, of course there's the inherent spike of cheat activity that you're likely to run into simply because of the access PC provides hackers with compared to consoles. However, because of the game's age, there is also far less oversight and management into cheat detection, prevention, and sanctions from a developer standpoint, so be warned that you don't know what kinds of players you might run into. The only other note here is that the developers nor Ubisoft have released a 60 FPS patch for PlayStation consoles. Microsoft was able to enter the game into its FPS boost program, allowing the Division 1 to run at a very smooth 60 on Xbox Series S and X, but if you have a PS4, PS5, even a PS5 Pro, the game will be locked at 30 FPS unless they decide to go in and change that at some point in the future. Lastly, people often ask if it is necessary to buy any DLCs to get the full experience, if so, which ones? In the Division 1's case, it's 3 major DLCs of Underground, Survival, and Last Stand all correlate to one major endgame mode for each. Therefore, it is of course optional content whether or not you want to go and check those out. You're not locked out of any main game content by not owning them. However, as you've likely heard me mentioning throughout this video, modes like Survival and Last Stand are community favorites and are often the highlight of community throwback events, so you may eventually be inclined to purchase and unlock those if you wish to partake in such events. Between those three modes though, Underground, Survival, and Last Stand, Underground and Survival have PvE modes within them that can be tackled entirely solo, but do know that Last Stand is an 8v8 PvP mode, and depending on your region and time zone, it may prove difficult to find consistent matches for it these days outside of those dedicated community events. So just keep that in mind as you contemplate whether they're worth purchasing for you or not. But that, my friends, I think is just about going to do it. That is your look and my analysis on whether it is worth playing The Division 1 in 2025. Again, I wasn't originally even sure if I wanted to make this video, but seeing as what happened this week, I felt compelled to share a slice of how cool that was to watch with all of you on here, and hopefully it informed you as to whether or not you think it might be worthwhile to pick this game up. If you end up doing so, once again, I wanted to shout out that you can check out my ultimate beginner and endgame guide for The Division 1 if you're so inclined. It should get you on your feet pretty quickly. I hope you all ended up enjoying the video and found it useful. If you did and you want to see more on the Division 1, 2, even the entire Division universe moving forward, then I would be most grateful if you considered hitting that subscribe button. We'd love to have you back in the future. That's all I've got for this one though, folks. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. RogueGold. Out.